Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Our first story is titled, My Wife's Best Friend Tried to Break Us Up Out of Jealousy. I'd been married to my wife Sarah for several years. We were and still are perfect for each other. I'm more laid back and mellow, whereas she is ambitious and not afraid to speak her mind. We are opposites, but in the best way that ends up balancing each other out. But there was one problem, Jessica, Sarah's best friend since high school. At first, I thought Jessica was great. She was funny, outgoing, and seemed genuinely happy for Sarah and me when we got engaged. She was even the maid of honor at our wedding, but looking back, I should have seen the signs earlier. It started with small things. Jessica would constantly call or text Sarah, even late at night or when we were out on date nights. She would always have some crisis or another that needed Sarah's immediate attention. I tried to be understanding. After all, friends are important, right? But then things started to escalate. Jessica began making snide comments about our relationship. She would say things like, I don't know how you put up with Mark snoring. Or, don't you miss being single sometimes, Sarah? I brushed it off at first, thinking Jessica was just going through a rough patch herself. She had been single for a while, and I figured she was just a little bit jealous of our relationship. But I had no idea how far she was willing to go. The real trouble started about 6 months ago. Sarah and I had been talking about trying for a baby, and we were both excited about the prospect of starting a family. When we shared the news with Jessica over dinner one night, her reaction was odd. I would almost describe it as passive-aggressive. Are you sure you're ready for that? She asked, her voice laced with concern that felt a bit exaggerated. I mean, you're both so young. Don't you want to travel more? Enjoy your freedom? Sarah laughed it off. We talked about it a lot. Jess, we feel ready. We are not that young anymore. We're almost 30 and things are settling down. Jessica's eyes narrowed slightly, but she plastered on a smile. Well, if you're sure, I just hope you know what you're getting into. That conversation should have been a red flag, but I was too caught up in our own excitement to pay attention. Little did I know Jessica was about to launch a full-scale campaign to break us up. It started with innocent suggestions. Jessica would constantly invite Sarah out for girls' nights, often at clubs or bars. She would send me pictures of Sarah surrounded by other guys, with captions like, Sarah's having so much fun. I tried to not let it bother me. I trusted Sarah completely, but the frequency of these nights out started to increase, and Sarah would often come home late, tipsy, and exhausted. One morning, after a particularly late night out, I decided to bring it up. Hey, Sarah, I said as we sat at the breakfast table. I know you're having fun with Jessica a bit. Don't you think these nights out are getting a bit much? Sarah looked up from her coffee, her eyes still a bit bleary. What do you mean? I sighed, trying to find the right words. It's just, you're out so often and coming home really late. I miss spending time with you. Sarah's face softened. Oh, Mark, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was bothering you. It is just that Jessica's been going through a tough time lately. She really needs a friend. I nodded, feeling a bit guilty for bringing it up. I understand, just we could set some more time for us too? Sarah smiled and reached across the table to squeeze my hand. Of course. How about we plan a special date night this weekend? I agreed, feeling relieved. I should have known I was feeling this way over nothing. But little did I know, Jessica had much more up her sleeve. A few weeks later, I got a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, my heart nearly stopped. It was a picture of Sarah, clearly drunk, with her arm around some guy at a bar. The message read, Thought you should know what your wife's really up to. I stared at my phone, my mind racing. This had to be a mistake, right? Sarah would never cheat on me. But the longer I looked at the picture, the more doubts crept in. Who sent this and why? When Sarah got home that evening, I could not help but confront her. Sarah, we need to talk, I said, my voice shaking slightly as I held up my phone with the picture. Sarah's eyes widened in shock. Mark, where did you get that? Someone sent it to me, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Sarah, what's going on? Who is this guy? Sarah's face crumpled. Oh God, Mark, it's not what it looks like. That is Jessica's cousin, Tom. He was visiting from out of town, and we all went out together. I had a little bit too much to drink, and I don't even remember taking that picture. I wanted to believe her, but doubt had already taken root. Why didn't you tell me about going out with Jessica's cousin? Sarah sighed, running a hand through her hair. I don't know. It did not seem important, Mark. You must believe me. Nothing happened. I nodded slowly, but I could feel a rift forming between us. Who sent that picture and why? The next few weeks were tense. Sarah and I were talking less, and I could feel her pulling away. Jessica, on the other hand, seemed to be around more than ever. She was always at her apartment, comforting Sarah, shooting me looks that seemed triumphant. One evening, as I was leaving work late, I got another text from the unknown number. Your wife's with another man right now. Don't believe me? Check the Blue Moon restaurant by your house. My heart pounding, I drove to the restaurant. This had to be a mistake, right? Sarah would never, but as I approached the restaurant, I saw Sarah and the same man from before, Jessica's cousin. I also saw Jessica though, and they were all sitting on the restaurant patio. Mark, Sarah exclaimed, jumping up from the bed where she had been. My heart pounding, I drove to the restaurant. This had to be a mistake, right? Sarah would never. But as I approached the restaurant, I saw Sarah and the same man from before, Jessica's cousin. I also saw Jessica, though, and they were all sitting on the restaurant patio. "Mark," Sarah exclaimed, jumping up from the bed where she had been sitting. "What are you doing here?" I stood there, confused and angry. "I got a text. It said you were here with another man." Sarah's face went from shock to furious in an instant. She whirled on Jessica. "You sent that text, didn't you? Just like you sent the picture to Mark." Jessica's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." But Tom, looking increasingly uncomfortable, spoke up. "Jess, come on. This has gone too far. You need to tell them the truth. Something is going on, and every time I am with you, Mark gets a mysterious text about me with the man. I would never do that to him. He's the love of my life. So why don't you explain what is really going on?" Honestly, I always admired Sarah for her ability to speak up. But in that moment, how much she truly loved me. It moved my heart that she was standing up for me in our relationship without hesitation. All eyes turned to Jessica, who seemed to deflate under our gazes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was jealous. You two have everything. I have nothing. I thought if I could just break you up." The room fell silent. As the weight of Jessica's confession sank in, Sarah was the first to speak, her voice trembling with anger and hurt. "Jessica, how could you? I thought you were my best friend." Jessica's eyes filled with tears. "I am your best friend. That is why I could not stand to see you throw your life away." I stepped forward, my own anger bubbling to the surface. Throw her life away? By being happy? By wanting to start a family? Jessica flinched at my words. "You don't understand. Sarah had so much potential. She was going to travel the world, make a difference. And then you came along. And suddenly, it's all about settling down, having kids. I could not stand by and watch her give up on her dreams." Sarah's voice was ice cold when she replied. "Those weren't my dreams, Jess. They were yours. I am happy with Mark. I want this life. How dare you try and take that away from me?" The room fell silent again, the tension palpable. Her cousin, who had been quiet throughout this exchange, finally spoke up. "Jess, do you need a ride home?" Jessica nodded mutely, tears streaming down her face. As they left, she turned back one last time. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to go this far." But Sarah just turned away, unable to look at her former best friend. After they left, Sarah and I stood in silence for a moment, the weight of what had just happened settling over us. Finally, I spoke. "I should have trusted you. I should have known you would never—" Sarah cut me off, wrapping her arms around me. "No, Mark, I am sorry. I should have seen what Jessica was doing. I should have put you first." We held each other for a long time, both of us processing the betrayal we just experienced. When we finally pulled apart, Sarah looked up at me, her eyes red but determined. "We need to talk, really talk, about everything." And talk we did. We went home and stayed up all night, hashing out everything that had happened over the past few months. We talked about our fears, our insecurities, our dreams for the future. It was painful at times, but necessary. "I felt like such an idiot," Sarah said at one point, wiping away tears. "How did I not see what Jessica was doing?" I took her hand, squeezing it gently. "We both missed the signs. She was your best friend. You trusted her." Sarah nodded, then looked at me seriously. "Mark, I need you to know. I never, ever considered cheating on you. Not for a second." "I know," I replied, and I meant it. Now that the fog of doubt had cleared, I felt ashamed for ever questioning her loyalty. "I'm sorry I doubted you, even for a moment." The next few weeks were challenging. Sarah had to deal with the loss of her best friend, and I had to work on rebuilding my trust. We decided to go to couples counseling, which helped us develop better communication skills and work through the lingering effects of Jessica's betrayal. Our first counseling session was awkward, to say the least. Neither of us was used to opening up to a stranger about our problems. But Dr. Ramirez, our counselor, was patient and understanding. "Let's start by talking about how this situation has affected your trust in each other," she suggested. I went first, admitting how hurt and confused I'd been by the photos and messages. "I want to trust Sarah completely," I said. "But there's this little voice in the back of my head that keeps asking, what if?" Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. "I understand, Mark. And I'm also sorry that my friendship with Jessica put that doubt there. I want you to know that you can trust me, always." Dr. Ramirez guided us through exercises to rebuild trust and improve our communication. It was not easy, but with each session, we felt ourselves growing stronger as a couple. About a month after the restaurant incident, we received a letter from Jessica. Sarah was hesitant to open it, but I encouraged her to hear Jessica out, even if just through a letter. The letter was long and tearful. Jessica apologized profusely, explaining that she had been dealing with her own issues of loneliness and unfulfilled dreams. She admitted to sending the texts and pictures, and to deliberately trying to cause problems in our marriage. She said she was starting therapy to work on her own issues, and that she hoped someday we might be able to forgive her. Sarah cried as she read the letter, a mix of anger and sadness in her tears. When she finished, she looked at me, uncertain. "What do you think?" I took a deep breath. "I think it's up to you. She hurt us both. She was your best friend. If you want to forgive her someday, I will support you. If you never want to see her again, I'll support that too." Sarah nodded, folding the letter carefully. "I'm not ready to forgive her yet, but someday. For now, I think I need to focus on us and our future." And focus on our future we did. We renewed our efforts to start a family, and 3 months later, we were overjoyed to discover that Sarah was pregnant. As we sat in the doctor's office looking at the first ultrasound of our baby, all the pain and drama of the past year seemed to fade away. "Can you believe it?" Sarah whispered, her eyes fixed on the small blob on the screen that would become our child. "We're going to be parents." I squeezed her hand, my heart full of love for her and our growing family. We are, and we're going to be great at it, together. The pregnancy brought its own set of challenges, but also a renewed sense of purpose and unity for us. We threw ourselves into preparing for the baby, attending childbirth classes, and setting up the nursery. Each step of the way, we made sure to communicate openly about our fears and excitements. One evening, as we were painting the nursery a soft yellow, Sarah paused, paintbrush in hand. "Mark," she said hesitantly, "I've been thinking about Jessica." I put down my roller, giving Sarah my full attention. "What about her?" Sarah sighed, absently rubbing her growing belly. "I'm still angry about what she did, but I miss her too. Is that crazy?" I shook my head, moving to sit beside her on the drop cloth. "It's not crazy. She was your best friend for a long time. It's normal to miss that friendship, even after everything that happened." Sarah leaned her head on my shoulder. "I don't think I'm ready to let her back into our lives. Not fully, but maybe we could start small, like letting her know about the baby." I considered this for a moment. The thought of Jessica being involved in our lives again made me uneasy, but I could see how important this was to Sarah. "If that's what you want, I'll support you," I said finally. "But we need to set clear boundaries." She nodded, relief evident on her face. "Of course. Thank you for understanding, Mark." The next day, Sarah sent a simple text to Jessica. "We're having a baby due in 5 months." Jessica's reply came almost immediately. "Congratulations. I'm so happy for you both. Thank you for letting me know." It was a small step, but an important one. We were cautious, but as the weeks passed, Jessica proved that she was genuinely trying to change. She respected our boundaries, never pushing for more involvement than we were comfortable with. As Sarah's due date approached, we found ourselves facing new anxieties. One night, unable to sleep, we sat in the nursery, surrounded by stuffed animals and baby clothes. "What if I'm not a good mom?" Sarah whispered, her voice light in the darkness. I pulled her close, my hand resting on her belly where our child was kicking up a storm. "You're going to be an amazing mom," I assured her. "You're kind, patient, and so full of love. Our baby is lucky to have you." Sarah sniffled, wiping away a tear. "And you're going to be the best dad. This baby is going to be so loved." As we sat there talking about our fears and hopes for the future, I realized how far we had come. The trials we had faced, Jessica's betrayal, the doubts, the near breakdown of our marriage, had only made us stronger. We had learned to communicate, to trust, to put each other first. When our daughter Lily was born on a warm summer morning, it felt like the start of a new chapter. As I held her for the first time, looking down at her tiny, perfect face, I felt the love that I had never experienced before. "She's beautiful," I whispered, tears in my eyes as I passed her to Sarah. Sarah held Lily close, her face radiant despite her exhaustion. "She's perfect," she agreed. In the weeks that followed, we were consumed with the joys and challenges of new parenthood. Sleepless nights, diaper changes, and first smiles became our new normal. Through it all, our bond grew stronger. About a month after Lily was born, we received a small package in the mail. Inside was a soft baby blanket and a note from Jessica. "Congratulations on your beautiful baby girl. I hope this blanket keeps her warm and reminds her how loved she is. I'm continuing my therapy and working on being a better person. Thank you for allowing me to share in your joy, even from a distance. All my love, Jessica." Sarah and I looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between us. The blanket was beautiful, and Jessica's words seemed sincere. We were not ready to fully welcome her back into our lives, but this felt like a positive step. We did end up letting Jessica meet our daughter, but we have yet to fully let her back in our lives. I do not think we ever will. And I do not think that Sarah and Jessica's friendship will ever be the same. However, we keep her at arm's length. and catch up every now and then. Some people are just better as distant friends, and there's nothing wrong with that. Here's what I think about the story, folks. I gotta say, when I first started reading about Mark and Sarah, I was like, okay, another happy couple story. What's the big deal? But man, did things take a turn quick. Let me tell you, I've seen some crazy friend drama in my day, but Jessica, she takes the cake. Frosting, and a whole dang bakery. I mean, who does that to their best friend? Sending unshared texts? Staging photos? Trying to break up a marriage? That is some next level soap opera stuff right there. But you know what really got me? The way Mark and Sarah handled it all. I'll be honest, there were moments when I was yelling at my screen like, come on, Mark, trust your wife. But then I started thinking, if I were in his shoes, getting all these weird messages and pics, I'd freak out too. I'm glad everything worked out for them and they did not let a jealous outsider ruin their marriage. All right, that's it for me. What did you folks think? And now, guys, we will move on to the second story of the video. Please like the video if you have enjoyed it so far. The story starts like this. Parents tried to force me to take over the family business. It's never easy standing up to your own family, but I did. I had no choice. Our family owns a chain of successful hardware stores across the state. It has been in the family for 3 generations, starting with my grandfather, who built it from the ground up. My dad took over when I was just a kid, and he always made it clear that one day it would be my turn. The problem? I had absolutely zero interest in hardware or running a business. From the moment I could walk, I was obsessed with the ocean. I would spend hours at the beach collecting seashells and observing tide pools. My bedroom walls were covered with posters of whales and coral reefs. When I told my parents I wanted to study marine biology in college, they reluctantly agreed, thinking it was just a phase. But as graduation approached, the pressure to join the family business intensified. It started with a subtle hint from my dad during our weekly phone calls. So, Dylan, have you thought about what you're going to do after graduation? He would ask, his tone casual but loaded with expectation. Yeah, Dad, I'm planning to apply for that research position at the Coastal Marine Institute, remember? I told you about it last month, I would reply, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. Oh, right. That's nice. But you know, there's always a place for you at Henderson's Hardware. We could really use your help with expanding the online store. I would change the subject, hoping you would get the hint. But as the weeks went by, the hints became less subtle and more frequent. Then came the family dinner that changed everything. It was a warm Sunday evening in May, just a month before my graduation. My parents had invited me over, saying they wanted to celebrate my upcoming graduation. Little did I know, they had an entirely different agenda. As soon as I walked in, I could feel the tension in the air. My mom was uncharacteristically quiet, and my dad kept clearing his throat nervously. We sat down to eat for a while. The conversation was normal, how my classes were going, the latest family gossip, that sort of thing. But then as we were finishing the main course, my dad put down his fork and looked at me seriously. Dylan, your mother and I have something important to discuss with you, he began. I felt a knot form in my stomach. I had a feeling I knew where this was going. We've been thinking a lot about your future, he continued, and we believe it's time for you to step up and take your rightful place in the family business. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Dad, we've talked about this. I appreciate the offer, but I have other plans. I want to pursue marine biology. It's what I've been working towards for the past 4 years. Mom chimed in, her voice gentle but insistent. Honey, we understand you enjoy marine biology, but it's not a practical career. The family business is stable, profitable, and it's your legacy. You have a responsibility to carry on what your grandfather started. I could feel my frustration rising. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry, but I don't want to run a hardware store. It is not my passion, and it is not what I've been training for. Besides, marine biology is absolutely a sustainable career. Dylan, this isn't about what you want. It's about duty, family. We've invested everything in this business, and it's time for you to do your part. But I never asked for this, I protested. I've always been clear about my interests and goals. Why can't you support my dreams? Dreams don't pay the bills, son, my dad said, his voice rising. Do you know how many marine biologists are out there struggling to find work? Meanwhile, we're offering you a guaranteed future, a successful business on a silver platter. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I appreciate everything you've done for me, but this is my life. I get to decide what to do with it. My mom reached out, trying to calm the situation. Dylan, please sit down. We are just trying to look out for you. Maybe if you gave it a chance, you'd see how rewarding the business can be. I shook my head. I'm sorry, but no, I'm not going to give up on my dreams. I'm going to pursue marine biology with or without your support. My dad slammed his hand on the table, making the dishes rattle. If you walk away from this opportunity, don't expect any help from us. No more tuition money, no more allowance. You'll be on your own. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I knew my parents could be stubborn, but I never expected them to go this far. The thought of losing their financial support was terrifying. But then I remembered all the hard work I put in, all the dreams I had for my future. I could not give that up. If that's how it's going to be, then fine, I said, my voice shaking slightly. I'll figure it out on my own. With that, I turned and walked out, ignoring my mom's pleas to come back and talk. As I drove home that night, my mind was racing. How was I going to manage without their support? But beneath the fear, there was a sense of relief. For the first time, I had stood up for myself and what I truly wanted. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. True to their word, my parents cut me off financially. I had to scramble to figure out how to pay for my final month of rent and living expenses. Thankfully, I had some savings from my part-time job at the campus library, and my roommate Alex was understanding about letting me delay my share of the rent. Dude, that's rough, Alex said when I told him what happened. But good for you, standing up to them. What's your plan now? I ran my hands through my hair, feeling overwhelmed. I'm not sure. I'm still going to go apply for that research position at the Coastal Marine Institute, but I need to find a way to support myself in the meantime. Alex thought for a moment. You know, my uncle runs a diving shop down at the beach. They're always looking for instructors during the summer season. With your marine biology background, you'd be perfect. It was not exactly marine research, but it was a start. I applied and I got the job, working as a scuba instructor by day and sending out job applications by night. It was exhausting, but every time I helped a newcomer experience the wonder of the underwater world, I knew I had made the right choice. Graduation day came and went. My parents did not show up, which hurt more than I wanted to admit. But as I stood there in my cap and gown, diploma in hand, I felt the sense of pride and accomplishment that no one could take away from me. A week after graduation, I got the call I'd been waiting for. Dr. Laura Chen, the lead researcher at the Coastal Marine Institute, wanted to interview me for the research assistant position. We were very impressed with your application and academic record, Dylan, she said over the phone. Are you available to come in for an interview next Tuesday? My heart was pounding with excitement. Absolutely, Dr. Chen, I'll be there. Thank you so much for this opportunity. The interview went well, but the competition was fierce. There were dozens of other recent graduates vying for the same position. As I waited to hear back, I threw myself into my work at the dive shop, trying not to obsess over the outcome. It was during one of my diving classes that I got the news that would change everything. I had just surfaced with a group of students when I saw my phone blinking with the voicemail. As soon as the class was over, I listened to the message. Hello, Dylan. This is Dr. Chen from the Coastal Marine Institute. I'm pleased to inform you that we would like to offer you the research assistant position. Please call me back at your earliest convenience to discuss the details. I let out a whoop of joy, startling a flock of seagulls nearby. This was it. My foot in the door of my dream career. I called Dr. Chen back immediately and accepted the offer. The job was not glamorous, a lot of data entry, equipment maintenance, and assisting with experiments, but I was in heaven. Every day I was learning something new about marine ecosystems and contributing to important research on coral reef conservation. As the months went by, I settled into my new life. I moved into a tiny studio apartment near the institute, living on a shoestring budget, but happier than I had ever been. The only cloud on my horizon was the continued silence from my parents. I had sent them an email telling them about my new job, but never received a response. It was about 6 months into my new job when things took an unexpected turn. I was assisting Dr. Chen with the presentation for a major environmental conference when she mentioned something that caught me off guard. Dylan, I've been meaning to ask you, she said as we were reviewing slides. How do you feel about public speaking? I shrugged. I don't have much experience with it, but I'm willing to learn. Why do you ask? She smiled. Well, I've been very impressed with your work, especially your analysis of the data from our latest coral bleaching study. I think you should present that section at the conference. I was stunned. Me? But Dr. Chen, I'm just a research assistant. Wouldn't it be better if you or one of the senior researchers did it? She shook her head. Dylan, you've shown a real talent for this work. Your insights are valuable, and it is time you started getting recognition for them. Plus, it'll be good experience for your future career. Nervously, I agreed. The next few weeks were a blur of preparation. I practiced my presentation over and over, refining my delivery and anticipating personal questions. As I stood at the podium looking out at the sea of faces, respected scientists, policymakers, and journalists, I took a deep breath and began. To my surprise, once I started talking about the research, I was so passionate about it. My nerves melted away. The presentation went smoothly, and during the Q&A session, I was able to answer the questions confidently. After the presentation, several attendees came up to congratulate me and asked me for more details about our research. Among them was a woman who introduced herself as a reporter for a major environmental magazine. "That was an excellent presentation, Dylan," she said. "Would you be interested in doing an interview for an article I'm writing about emerging voices in marine conservation?" I was floored. Of course, I'd be honored. The article came out a month later, featuring quotes from my interview and highlighting the work we were doing at the Institute. It was surreal seeing my name in print, being referred to as a promising young marine biologist. It was this article that finally broke the silence between me and my parents. One evening, as I was working late at the lab, my phone rang. I nearly dropped it when I saw Mom on the caller ID. Shaking hands, I answered. My mom's voice was hesitant. "Dylan, we saw the article about your work. Your father and I were very proud of you." I felt a lump form in my throat. "Thanks, Mom. That means a lot." There was an awkward pause before she continued. "We've been doing a lot of thinking, Dylan. We realize now that we were wrong to try and force you into the family business. Seeing how successful and happy you are, well, it's clear you made the right choice." I could not believe what I was hearing. "Really? You mean that?" "We do," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "We're sorry for how we treated you. Do you think we can meet sometime? Try to make things right?" It was not an easy decision. The hurt from their ultimatum and subsequent silence ran deep. But as I thought about it, I realized I did not want to carry that anger and resentment forever. "Okay," I finally said. "Let's meet. We have a lot to talk about." We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a cafe halfway between my apartment and their house. When I arrived, I saw them sitting at a table, looking nervous and a bit older than I remember. As I sat down, an awkward silence fell over us. Finally, my dad spoke up. "Dylan, I owe you an apology," he said, his voice gruff with emotion. "I was wrong to try and force you into a life you didn't want. Seeing what you have accomplished, I'm proud of you, son. Really proud." Tears pricked my eyes. "Thanks, Dad. That means a lot to hear." My mom reached out and squeezed my hand. "We've been doing a lot of soul searching since you left. We realized that we were so focused on what we wanted for you that we never really listened to what you wanted for yourself. Can you forgive us?" I took a deep breath. It hurt what you did, cutting me off, not coming to my graduation, but you are my parents. I want you in my life. If you can respect my choices from now on, then yes, I think we can move past this. We spent the next few hours talking, really talking, in a way we never had before. They asked me about my work, and I found myself excitedly explaining our latest research projects. To my surprise, they seemed genuinely interested. "You know," my dad said thoughtfully, "I never realized how much goes into protecting our oceans. It's important work you're doing, Dylan." As we were getting ready to leave, my mom hesitated. "Dylan, we know we can't make up for cutting you off financially, but we would like to help now if you'll let us. We can help with your rent or..." I shook my head. "Thanks, Mom, but I'm managing on my own." It was tough at first, but I'm doing okay now. What I'd really like is just to have my parents back in my life. They both smiled, looking relieved. "We'd like that too, son," my dad said. From that day on, things slowly began to improve between us. It was not perfect. There were still moments of tension and misunderstanding, but we were trying. They came to visit me at the Institute, and I even brought them along on a research expedition to study a nearby coral reef. Watching my dad, who had never shown much interest in nature beyond what he could sell in his hardware stores, excitedly pointing out different fish species, I felt a warmth in my chest. This was what I always wanted, to share my passion with my family and have them understand it. As for me, my career continued to flourish. The presentation at the conference and the magazine article had put me on the radar of other researchers in the field. I was invited to collaborate on projects with other institutes and even got the opportunity to spend a month doing field work in the Great Barrier Reef. 2 years after that fateful dinner, where my parents had tried to force me into the family business, I found myself back at their house for another Sunday dinner. But this time, the atmosphere could not have been more different. As we sat around the table, my mom raised her glass. "I'd like to propose a toast," she said, "to Dylan and his recent grant award. We're so proud of you, honey." My dad nodded in agreement. "You've really made a name for yourself in your field, son. And more importantly, you're doing work that matters." I felt a lump in my throat as I raised my own glass. "Thanks, Mom, Dad, and thank you for supporting me, even if it took a while to get there." After dinner, as we were sitting in the living room, my dad cleared his throat. "Dylan, there's something your mother and I have been discussing. We know you're not interested in taking over the hardware business, and we respect that. But we have been thinking, what if we use some of the business's profits to set up a foundation, something to support marine conservation efforts?" I was stunned. "Are you serious? Dad, that would be amazing." He smiled. "Well, you've opened our eyes to how important this work is. And it feels right, using our success to give back to the planet. What do you think? Would you be willing to advise us on where the money could do the best? I could not believe what I was hearing. Not only had my parents accepted my choice, but they were now actively looking to support my field of work. It was more than I ever could have hoped for. Of course, I said, feeling overwhelmed with emotion. I'd be honored to help. As I drove home that night, I could not help but reflect on how far we've all come. 3 years ago, I was a college student, terrified of disappointing my parents. Now, I was living my dream, doing work I was passionate about, and I had repaired my relationship with my family. It had not been easy. There were times when I doubted myself, when the financial struggle and the weight of my parents' disappointment felt overwhelming. But standing up for myself and my dreams had led me to a life more fulfilling than I could have imagined. I thought about all the young people out there facing similar pressures, to follow a path laid out by their parents, to prioritize financial stability over passion. If I could tell them one thing, it would be this: trust yourself. Your dreams are valid, and with hard work and determination, you can achieve them. As I pulled up to my apartment, I noticed an email notification on my phone. It was from Dr. Chen, asking if I would be interested in leading my own research project next year. I smiled to myself. The journey was not over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But I was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, secure in the knowledge that I was exactly where I was meant to be. Here are my thoughts about the story. Can we talk about Jake's parents first? Geez, talk about putting the pressure on. I get that they wanted to keep the family business going, but forcing your kid to give up their dreams? That's a big yike for me. It reminded me of when my dad wanted me to take over his accounting firm. Spoiler alert, I'm terrible with numbers, so that would have been a disaster. What really got me was Jake's determination. This man was facing the possibility of being cut off financially, losing his parents' support, and he still stood his ground. That takes some serious guts. I found myself cheering for him when he took that scuba instructor job. Like, way to make lemonade out of lemons, my man. The part that really hit home for me was when Jake's parents finally came around. That phone call after the magazine article? I did not think Jake's parents were going to budge, to be quite honest. Some parents get so caught up in trying to make their children's lives go in a certain way, it ruins the relationship. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.